Foundation to help people. When I was at the Minneapolis Convention Center, I had the pleasure to meet a gentleman that was like an information security guard. And I spoke with him for about 20 minutes one evening as I was leaving. And the last day I was there, I continued my conversation with him. And I'm not going to give you any introduction other than as you listen to Robert Nickpon right now, you're going to hear something very, very special. Robert, I've been here for 7 days at the ACA, American Correctional Association, 148th Congress, and I'm going to be doing my show and talking about all the wonderful experiences I had. But I had an incredible conversation with you when I left the other night, and I just really appreciate you. And you understand what's going on out there, so you're just starting to tell me something, and I just want to get it so other people can hear it.
Well, given what conversation we did have, I also enjoyed it very much, appreciate it very much. That what you're really trying to do is something positive and good where it's needed. And in this day and age right now, what we're all dealing with and facing with, more so than it seems to be of any other time in recent memory, the need to do good, the need to pursue good, and to be about that, how necessary that is to essentially do this more than anything else, which is build community, to foster what the community needs, and to participate and gift that community with whatever you have to offer it. If everyone really does focus their attention onto others and onto those needs, work can get done so much more effectively and for the betterment of everyone. But presently, it just seems like too many people are focused on themselves. Even in the educational process, the focus is on you attaining an education to develop not just yourself, but what it'll mean to yourself for your own future and for that sake alone, rather than what that future will mean, what you will bring to the greater community as a whole. And that's the sad part of it. So even at this developmental level, through the education system, we're headed in a lot of directions that are taking us away from being about the community and building it. And as you had talked about and mentioned, for the work that you're doing, how do you reinstate somebody back into the society, into the community, given the needs that exist there? Somebody will serve a term, but ultimately they're not serving the term forever. Where do they go from that? How do they find their way back into the community? If the community isn't welcoming of them, that it's interested in them, looking at them as a potential resource to help build and grow the community, then that negates the possibilities for growth. So it's not just internally within the system that you deal with, but externally as well, the community in and of itself, that so much action could, for the benefit of the greater community, help resolve the issues that are so much need to be addressed in this day and age, for the betterment of everyone, that everyone not just participate, but that everyone get their opportunity to be the best of them, and invited to be that, to find their way. And so with the community in mind and considerate of the community, building that as being the priority and the goal, you got a better chance of finding your way.
Robert, you've said in 2-3 minutes what the whole mission of Right Thinking Foundation is, because it's not about government, it's not about entitlements, it's about people doing for one another, but it's got to be a community. If you look at my business card that I gave you, they got to have a place to live, they got to have a job, they got to have a source of income, but they got to be part of community. And what you articulated, which is what I love, I've been in these seminars for a week, and I've heard some very powerful speakers, all these PhDs, etc. And I know zero about your background, but I know one thing. I love talking to you. Your heart's in the right place, and that's what I'm all about, is just people. You know, the show that I did this past week, and this is part 2 that's coming up that this is going to air on, is I think I call it On the Road with Steve, Driving to My Destiny, and everyday real life role models. What you're saying is it, and it's community. We have to be part of community.
That's what's real. and that's what preserves the integrity of who we are as a society, as a people, where it begins in the family, in the home. This is your first taste of a community, and there you learn what a community is all about. So it begins in the home. But ultimately, what you're learning, those lessons of the family and through the family, are to aid you, give you the opportunity to grow, to teach you how to better relate to the greater whole, the greater community, to extend yourself out into that. There are very few people who can not only live on their own, but thrive in isolation. Very few people. That's not really who we are by nature. And given the society the way that it is, it's less that it's bringing people together. Everyone's doing their thing, but like even relative to technology, they're involved in their own worlds and focused in on what their interests are, rather than looking at how to participate and get out there and make a difference to the greater community. How do you really find that greater whole? Participate in the what is life served, giving of yourself to someone else. If you're able to find that, you'll be rewarded. You'll be happy. You'll find what I would think you would consider to be the way. You will found the way. You will found your way, and you will have a good life. You'll have a life that you can look back on and say, that meant something. It didn't just mean something to me in my experiences, given my life experiences, but my life impacted others. And in this light, I served a greater whole. There was purpose to it. And because of that purpose, now again, you'll be satisfied, fulfilled, feeling rewarded. And everyone should be given that chance. If given that chance and the right opportunity, that's what's so important. That again, it's not just an internal thing, what someone's trying to do on their end, like yourself, within a system, but the community itself, building upon its own self for the sake of the community, the health of the community, inviting and welcoming everyone in to participate, because you never know as a resource what that special someone can bring to that community. It isn't right to limit somebody based upon your perception of them. What's correct is to evaluate them based upon what they can bring to the community, how they can best serve. And if willing to do so, participate in this functional light to help build things. Because there's not only things to build and maintain, there's always change. There's always change. There's always the future. To direct attention, focus, and energy on. There's always a need to act. And so everyone's essential. Everyone's important. Everyone's necessary. And if they're looked upon in the right way, as a resource, they'll find their way, and the community will thrive because of their participation.
Robert, that was just absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that. And I'm going to say goodbye now to the Minnesota Convention Center. And it's been a wonderful experience, and a big part of why it's wonderful is because I had a chance to talk and listen to you. God bless you, Robert.
I wish you well, Steve, in all your endeavors.
So, Robert, I just kept talking to you after you did that clip with me, but I mean, where do you get all this depth of feelings that you're talking to me about?
I've come to understand that one of the responsibilities in life is to raise awareness for your own sake, but for the sake of others too. And what it requires is that you process. We're all in process, every single one of us, and every day. It's not that process for us will ever stop. We just are in process at our own rate. So people process things at different rates of speed or at different times. But what we're all here to do is to process. So to consider what is and what is not.
But what's your background? Where do you get this incredibly tuned in awareness thinking? You told me you're an artist?
Yes.
Trained?
The arts were the arena for that exploration, but it's just being a human being.
But you're a trained professional artist.
That's correct. Yes, and so that's an arena where, again, out of responsibility, you look at content, process it, and then document it maybe with greater clarity, and hopefully with greater clarity than how it was originally presented to you. But whatever you perceive as being of value out there in the world, that's what you're really looking to do, is to share that, to document that once again, or again with greater clarity, to bring that into prominence again, that this is what's valuable. And that's all about of processing, even participating, looking at the world, seeing what's out there, who's out there, where are the gifts in the world, and then bringing light to them, putting focus, directing energy towards that, because that energy is a gifted thing, not just for you potentially, but for anyone else. And that's the artistic responsibility.
So we were talking about art, and I told you that I went to Virginia Commonwealth, VCU in Richmond, one of the top art schools on the East Coast. And I pulled thousands of art history slides for my friends when I was there. And I remember that's how I learned about Botticelli, Venus on the Half Shell. And then Hieronymus Bosch was like the forerunner of Salvador Dali and all of his kind of crazy stuff.
Right.
But I love French Impressionism, and you told me that you're trained in a French school.
French academic tradition is what I'm trained in. So originally from Chicago, I studied at the Naguib School of Sculpture there to learn the craft of monumental sculpture production. But then after I graduated from there, I came out here into the Minneapolis, St. Paul area to study at the Atelier Lac. And there I studied for 5 years to learn the trade, the craft of producing painting in oil. But again, as a traditional light and with that background tied to tradition, French academic history. And yes, but that's all a part of that taking on that responsibility. There's an artistic responsibility, but there's just for every person in general, the need for each and every one of us to process, look at our own lives, think about where we're headed, what we've done, what we've experienced, take the time to just be with it and accumulate over time, having processed enough information, retain what's valuable, extract what's valuable out of all that content, and promote it.
Do you teach?
Live it.
Are you a teacher?
I have been asked many times to teach, and I have certainly taught, but in classroom setting, though presently that's a future for me. That's one of the responsibilities I know that I have. Something to look forward to, something ahead of me.
Wow.
That for art, for all that I've acquired and gained through my own studies and through my own work and through my own endeavoring, that there's a lot that I have to share just with that community.
Wow. I am so glad I stopped to introduce myself to you, but I'm gonna give you a little humor here. You ready for a little humor?
I'll take it.
So I cut this out of the paper of the Family Circus. I read 3 cartoons every morning. The Family Circus, Dennis the Menace, and one other one. I can't remember the name of it, but this is a cartoon that is got the famous Rodin, the Thinker. Is it Rodin?
Yeah.
The Thinker.
Right.
And and I'd like you to look at this.
Right.
I'm going to hit you cold here.
Okay.
I want you to look at this and read the caption.
Got it. Okay.
Read it loud.
He's probably trying to remember where he left his clothes. That's one interpretation. You could go there. I mean, but that's the thing. There's one guy right there who's depicted in process.
Yeah.
This is somebody who's got a lot, not only on his mind, but it's weighing heavy on even his soul.
Oh.
And that's why he's in this state and in this pose and position, is because his soul needs to know and wants to know through life experience what is really real.
Yeah.
What's really genuine? What is the truth? Who am I? Who is my neighbor?
Awareness, higher states of awareness.
That's exactly right.
And we have to reflect on what we do and always clarify it and move forward.
For the sake of the future, that there is a future. And so that's a part of the responsibility, just keeping up with processing the information, your own life, what's happening to you, experiences around you, so that you're prepared for that future when it comes, that you'll be able to respond.
Wow. Robert, God bless you. You're making a difference. You're beautiful. Thanks.
We're working on it, Stephen, and thank you so much. Again, I just wish you all the best in your endeavors and everything you're doing. to help others just the same.
Thank you.
I told you, Robert is one of the most